Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday, February 13th, and this will be our chart lesson for today. And a quick look at our daily chart. You can see that we had a huge sell-off today, but to nobody's surprise, there was a somewhat of a rally at the end, and they took a good bit of that back. I think they took almost 40 points of that sell-off back. So like I said, none of these sell-offs have stuck so far. The buying seems to come in at some point, and they uh, run it back up again. So we'll see if there's any follow-through selling this time, or if we're just going to rally off of this. We did relieve. I mean, we sold off all the way to the midline, and you can see we bounced off that to the tick, basically. Let me zoom in here. Maybe you can see that a little better. But you can see we bounced off that 21 EMA, which is what this center bar is. The other bars are based on some other figures that are proprietary, but this center bar is a 21 bar EMA. So, and you can see we bounced off that, and that is, I want to say it's about 40 points, almost 50 points maybe. It says 34 there, but I think we've rallied some more since then. So I think it was closer to 40 something points. But anyway, there it is on the daily chart. Let's flip over to the intraday 2000 tick chart and take a look at that and uh, go through the trade. Once again, really from about 8 a.m. until about almost just prior to probably mid-lunch, 12:30 or something, my Central Standard Time, my time, it was just sideways to slightly up. So uh, that's typical. We see the early sell-off, and then once the market opens, it just goes sideways. But we did start back down. Looked like we were going to attempt a measured leg, but we came up way short. And generally, that indicates a larger rally. And you can see that rally. And let's just look and see what. I mean, into the close, it was 38 points. So I guess I was right on the other chart. It matches up. So and notice where we rallied back to the opening price. And so we basically took it back. We took all this second leg back. What we did get of a second leg. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we rally and take all that back tomorrow. I mean, personally, this is just my opinion, and take it with a grain of salt. We'll wait and see. But personally, I don't think that with this being an election year, I don't think they'll allow this market to sell off strongly until after the election. I think they're going to hold this thing steady. Um, uh, Nobody's going to let a market sell off if they can help it during an election year. It's just not going to happen. So it's not to say that something couldn't happen that's unplanned or unknown, some kind of large event. Somebody bombed, if we had a terrorist attack or somebody bombed the U.S. or we went to war with somebody or China invades Taiwan or something crazy like that happens, yeah, we could see a bigger sell-off. But unless something major like that happens, some kind of economic issue happens, I don't see this market selling off big before the election. So again, that's just don't bank on that. Don't take that. Don't try to trade that. We always trade what we see. That's just my opinion of what we might expect as far as any possible big sell-offs. But anyway, let's zoom in here, go through the trades, and a few more trades today. We did have some movement today, although they were fast and furious again, usually when they happened, and there weren't a lot of chances to enter them. So, it is what it is. But there was a 7:30 news here, which is what set this thing off, the CPI news. And really, I think what we get from that CPI news is that there's still a chance of inflation. And so there's probably less of a chance they're going to reduce rates anytime soon. So I think that sold the market off. I think the market had built in a couple of rate cuts, at least one rate cut already, and now it's looking like we may not get that. So maybe the market's taking that back. Will it hold? We'll see. My guess is they'll run it back up again before it's over. But anyway, uh, you couldn't trade till after that news item. So really by 7:30, things were starting to settle down. There wasn't really any setups in here. This would have been a great setup up here to trade. But it's just too dangerous to trade during those news items, and so you're better off being flat. But we do run down here, and you can clearly see there's two legs. Even though this is sideways and a little bit range looking, there are clearly two legs back to the EMA here after this big sell-off. And there's a 1, 2, 3 triple test there. And then this is also on this level, there's a new low right there. So first entry, second entry. So it's a two-legged move back to the EMA. It's a second entry at the EMA. It's a triple test. It's a fairly decent signal bar. Even if you look at this as a range, there's plenty of room to get out. So it's a nice place to enter. And if you enter there, you're probably going to get a runner, and you might, you could at least ride this out to somewhere down near the lows until we start to get a rally. And generally what I'll do is I'll have a target. And if we don't reach that target and prices start bouncing, I'll put in a trailing stop and eventually get stopped out. So I probably would have put one in here and it just kind of trailed it down at the highs or something like that. So I don't talk a lot about the exits. We always scalp out at 4 ticks, and then whether or not you carry a runner or not, where you exit your runners is pretty much up to you. I base that on your comfort level, because if you're not comfortable, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So some people like to hold on to their runners and get, take fewer trades and get a runner and get as much out of it as we can. And that's probably the best way to do it. But I struggle with that. I hate to see $1,000 in my a profit only to watch it prices back up and take it all back, even though it might go 2,000 later. I'd rather take my profit, wait for the rally's over, look for another entry, and try to get part of the next move too. But that's just me. So whatever you're comfortable with, that's what you're going to want to do and tend to work with. And some people are different there. So that's the reason I don't talk a lot about the exits. I leave that up to you. What works for you, figure out what works, find your comfort level, and that's where you want to be. So anyway, we drop on down. I don't see any other entries in here. This is a pretty strong trend down, but we already had a break right here. And so any of these others are probably getting risky, especially this far away from the EMA. And then you see suddenly it bounces. And again, we get another, this is almost a perfect repeat pattern here. We get another 2 legs back. This is not a new low, so technically this is not a second entry here. And this one's back to the midline. But again, it's a triple test. It's 2 legs back. There's 2 legs up right here, and on a bigger picture, 2 legs up. And so if it turns down here, I would look for, and because there's 2 legs in there, I would look for another measured leg down like this, and you see we actually get a little more than that. So, but I like taking that entry on that big bearish bar. And again, we just work sideways and we start heading back to the other trend line. And notice how we've got this channel working up. We get a close outside. And we can never make a new high. There is a triple test in there, but you just can't go short into that support. It drops down pretty quickly. And then you get another first entry, and then you get another first entry. And then finally you get a second entry here. There's a little bit of support there, but once this, I'd wait for this to close. I wouldn't trade it on the engulfing bar. When it closes bearish, if it breaks below that, because it's pretty much confirming that trend line, I'm probably going to go with it. I like that setup, and it does close below the support here. Drops on down, comes back, no setup here. There is a lower high here. I didn't mark this one. It's a second entry as well. The problem is this is your signal bar, and so you can't really enter here. So unfortunately, it's probably going to be a good move down, because we're going to expect prices to make a new low, but it's just not a good spot. And we end up getting another trend line here, and we get another setup here. Same thing. This is your signal bar though. And then we start working sideways. And finally, you get this little breakout, and you get a 2-bar matching high here. It does make a new high compared to this, so it's like a failed breakout, but it closes back inside, so I think you're safe to go short. I still mark that one green. I think you're safe to go short on that one if you want to take it. And notice after the break of this yellow one, we get 2 legs down. Plus now we've got a break of the green, of the bigger blue 2-tier channel and a few legs down. So we could get a reversal now. And guess what? There's a second entry long here right into a reversal that just takes off. Unfortunately, you don't get any setup to enter this. It just takes off. I don't even see a good signal bar that really sets up here to take a trade, except maybe this one, and we've already got a break, and you could get 2 legs back. So not really a good place to enter. And then notice you get another pullback with a first entry. There's no breaks here, so that's a first entry, then it pulls back. That's a second entry, and then you get that failure there. So notice that you got a new swing low. It's lower than that swing right there. So it's a first entry, second entry, and it does make a double top, so it's a second entry long too. So you've got a second entry long, a failed second entry short. It looks like 2 legs back to the EMA on a bigger picture, a nice signal bar. You're making higher lows here still. I like going long there. There's plenty of room to this high, and you can see that's about where it goes, and then it finds resistance before it gets a failed breakout. But notice you do get a triple test down here too. And once again, even though this moves outside, it closes back inside. I like going long if it breaks higher. No setup to go short there, and then you get another breakout, and I don't like going long here. I think it's too risky to go long because it could be looking at a reversal. It ends up taking off, but no real chance to enter it until here. You get 2 legs back to the EMA after the first break of that trend channel there, so that's a second entry long. It turns out to be a nice trade. You come back here, and technically by the count, this is a double top, so first entry, second entry, but that signal bar is iffy. This is a little congested, so that's not really clearly looks like 2 legs back. I think your second entry is really here, and your signal bar is no good. And then you're just kind of chopping along here. Unfortunately, you don't get a good short setup, and the bottom just falls out of it again. All the way down here, no setups until finally you get a first entry, and then this breaks higher and fails and turns down. You get a second entry short. You could wait for that to close, or you could go short on the engulfing bar. Since that's a really bullish engulfing bar that broke higher, that's going to trap people probably. I like going short there. And you're looking for a retest of this low. And you get a rally, close outside, new high. And there's a second entry right there on that engulfing bar. I wouldn't take the engulfing bar here. And then it doesn't break lower till this bar, which makes a new high. So maybe you go short right there. It's not a second entry. It just looks like you get a break and 2 legs up, which means you're probably going to reverse. There is room back to the EMA. So I like that one. It's real close to being red, but it's a little congested. So, and then you already really had your second entry trigger. So for that reason, I think you have to make this one green. It's still a little aggressive, but there's reasons to like that trade. We drop on down, and then there's no setups here. Then we're just working sideways. This one is tempting, but we really don't have a good triple test there yet. That doesn't come till here, and then you don't have room. So you really can't take that entry just because there's not enough room. And you see how it bounced there. It ends up going lower, but it doesn't always do that. A lot of times it just keeps going sideways, or it rallies up and stops you out. So that's why you can't go short there. These are all just first entries. Finally, you get a second entry here. It's a little congested, but we don't quite have a second entry or a second leg down, as you can see there by the I marked it there, and there's still plenty of room here. So I don't think you can enter that on the engulfing bar. You got to wait. It does break higher and fail, but when it closes that bearish, I like going short there. And you can see that's a quick, easy move. And if you caught that one, I did mark it green because it's not quite back to the trend line, and it is a little congested. But I think if you're going to be aggressive, that's the kind you want to be aggressive on a really bearish day. You can make mistakes entering with the trend when you got a good trend, but if you're trying to buy here and you make a mistake, you're in a world of hurt. But if you're going to be aggressive, and if mistakes, if you want to be able to make mistakes and not get burned so often, you got to enter with a trend on strong trend days like this. So that's when you want to try kind of take these more aggressive trades. But anyway, that thing drops on down, and you would have had a nice runner out of that. Bounces off the low, and there's a second entry here, but the signal bar is no good. Otherwise, that probably would have been just as good an entry as any. But then you get another move up, close outside new high. Again, that signal bar is not very good there, so you just can't really, even though that's a second entry, actually it's not a second entry, but the second entry was here, so that's a third, now a fourth, but still you get a break in new high, and if you had a better signal bar, I might say take that trade or at least make it green, because you're going to expect on a trend that strong, a retest of the lows. And this thing just takes off. It's unfortunate it wasn't a good setup there. Maybe you had a little better signal bar than me. If you did, I wouldn't be mad at all if you took that trade. But then you get a first entry and a second entry here. And this is a third entry. This is somewhat of a triple test. It's the first break of the trend line here. And there's a good chance with retest this strong. Normally I wouldn't even draw the channel on a retest, but this one's so strong you got to treat it like another trend, and you're going to probably make a retest of that low and probably get a couple of legs down. You can see that's exactly what happens. We end up just kind of going sideways. No more entries here. It drops on down, and you don't want to go long here yet. You need to confirm trend in the other direction before you think about going long on a day like that, on a trend like that. And that just takes us into 230. So, and there's not anything else after that. I mean, there's some nice rally here, but it's way too late to be trading then. So yeah, once again, they did take back a good bit of this sell-off. And really, you could just argue that from about I would say from 8 o'clock to about 1 o'clock, we're still in a range. The downtrend did start here, but until it breaks out here, you got to assume this is probably a range, and this is probably a little bit higher here, like so. You might have even had it more up like this, and so we've already dropped below by here. So right in here would be the point you'd probably be more concerned about. Really, until you surpass this previous low, you still got to worry about a bounce though. But I just call that mostly sideways. And again, when we didn't get the measured move, we came up really short here. That led to a pretty nice rally of what we figured up almost 40 points. So anyway, there it is. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.